It's Wednesday, February 11th, 2026. Okay, so I didn't end up getting a root canal Monday, even though that was part of the plan, and instead I've just done all sorts of prescription meds to get a better picture of what I'm dealing with dentally. Long and short, though, I've been on a loading dose of antibiotics and steroids, and they have been making sleep way harder than usual. I got about 3 hours of sleep Monday night, and then Tuesday was the busiest ice day we've seen, I think, yet in St. Louis Park. Yesterday, I stood watch in the morning, put together a video focused on gamers, specifically a couple who are really using their YouTube platforms for spreading awareness of the current economic situation in the tech sector that I think are absolutely worth paying attention to. And then I was like, all right, my important things for the day are done. I just need to get some rest. So I went out, got a breakfast burrito from the local burrito shop with the intent to hibernate all afternoon, because usually consuming like 1,500 calories will do that. I ended up laying down around 1:30 or 2, and then the messages started flying out of the phone. ICE initially showed up yesterday about 3 blocks away from my house at a local synagogue. And when observers showed up there, they kind of spread out into the residential streets around it. So I started hearing the whistles from my neighbors as soon as I opened my front door, and I had to walk about 2 blocks to see about 2 dozen observers with all eyes and whistles on one vehicle with masked occupants that was just loitering on our residential street.
Fucking coward!
The agent stayed in the car, and we stayed with whistles and phones out, and this went on for probably about 30 to 40 minutes. They would keep scooting down every 5 or 10 minutes, just like a couple of cars on the same residential street. No intention of actually leaving. They didn't really engage with the people around them. They stayed in their vehicle. And it really wasn't clear what their intent was, frankly, whether they were just passing time, trying to distract us, or just having their presence in our neighborhood causing tension and fear. The more significant and concerning part is that where they were loitering was specifically where the bus stops were, and it was at the time when buses would be dropping children off from school to get back to their homes in my neighborhood. Regardless of what their intent was, it was far from the only activity in St. Louis Park yesterday. The whole community was alight basically all day, and the collective sense of exhaustion was pretty clear in the various community chats that I'm a part of. Last night I was planning on attending a city council meeting. It took place at like 6:15 yesterday evening. Frankly, once we got there, I was so mentally and physically exhausted that I just stayed home and once again tried to get a bit of sleep from like 6 to 7. Didn't happen. I was tossing and turning. My mind was still racing. It does sound like the meeting was very well attended at City Hall, though I think that the community conclusion is just the one that I had expected. Our elected representatives, our local ones, are listening. They are engaged, and unfortunately, they're mostly powerless to directly help out against the main threat that is still very much in our community. You ever heard of Tetris being used to prevent PTSD? There was an interesting study that I'll link in the description here. It was published in 2020 and has since been cited in over 17 other published papers. The long and short of it is that there is evidence that performing the relatively simple, repetitive, visual spatial task of lining up tetronymos and jamming to the Tetris soundtrack helps to prevent post-traumatic stress when done shortly after stressful experiences. In the original study, it was combat experiences. So after tossing and turning and trying to nap unsuccessfully last night, I ended up hopping on the computer and I booted up a new $5 game called Vital Shell. It's a retro take on a current genre that really exploded due to the popularity of a game called Vampire Survivors. And the whole genre is basically been called a single stick shooter. Basically, you are using like one stick on a control stick to just basically move around. You're collecting power-ups as you go to kind of make yourself auto-shoot a little faster. It's a very simple game. You're basically just running away from constantly spawning enemies and collecting little drops on the ground and shoots and upgrades every so often. But it was exactly what I needed last night when I couldn't sleep. I couldn't really effectively zone out. but just kind of focusing my mind on a simple, straightforward task that just kind of set and move was pretty cool. Yeah, I could feel my brain untangling as I played this, as I led my little mecha robot around in circles, auto shooting at hordes of mobs that were spawning. So I think there's something to it. I think we got to use everything that we have in order to get ourselves through this collectively, and yeah, sometimes that includes fighting little games.